Good evening and welcome to Paranormal Peeps with Paul Goddard. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, thank you. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to being here. Well, I'm here, so I'm enjoying it right now. And I start again and say it's all in English. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to talking about everything reincarnation, past lives, and paranormal.
Yeah, it certainly fascinates me. Like I said, as we started, I've got some weird stuff happening with my past life, and it has been happening for about 8 years, and I didn't actually realise that I'd had a past life. And it's true, going on like a number of paranormal investigations, there seems to be this guy keeps coming through. And then later on, somebody on a podcast said, "Oh, I thought you were hung in your past life." And then actually doing a regression and finding out, yeah, he was involved. And oh, wow. And it's just a mad story. And I guess you've encountered people with crazy tales, haven't you?
I have. I mean, a lot of my work is one-to-one with clients. I always make a promise to the clients that unless they say I can mention them, I don't. But I've had sort of some very interesting. I've had people being animals as well sometimes. So that's been quite interesting. They're more explaining what they're seeing rather than having this conversation with this ape and this ape is saying back to me. But they're experiencing what they're experiencing. I've had an ape. A whale. I think I had a few others as well. I even had one in one past life that they were a dragon trainer, which was really interesting. But the person that they were when they looked it up wrote fantasy stories, so that could maybe explain why they were experiencing these things.
That's fantastic, because you kind of always assume it's going to be a person.
Yes.
I've done 2, and one I was actually from Nottingham, 1300s, Nottingham Castle, around that area. I was a peasant living around there, so it's just so fascinating.
It is, and whenever I do these past life regressions, I always have more questions and answers at the end of it, which I think is the way it's supposed to be. Because wouldn't it be boring if we absolutely knew everything? And I think that that's the way I treat past lives. Is I'm an explorer in them, and I just like to constantly keep exploring and seeing where people go. And then once you think you've experienced everything, somebody else will come out with something else, which will be down a completely different path. So, like I've had people experiencing before giant ants in there, like kind of back, but the size of the hand. And they, I mean, there was actually some giant ants prehistoric times, but humans weren't about then. But it's kind of interesting. People sort of picked up on these. Maybe it was some other planet, or maybe one day we'll discover there were these giant ants. We never know, because like cryptids and things like that, I'm totally fascinated with as well.
That is incredible, because I just think about the people, and you don't think about the time periods and people sort of bringing through really strange stuff like that. That is amazing. We've got Carl here. He's been told not to do a past life regression. Quite a few mediums actually come up to him and say, "You can't do it. You've got to keep away from it."
Okay.
But he's picking up quite a lot now himself. He's got things happening in his house, but that's because of a spirit who lives there. But it is quite mad, isn't it? What do you think about that when he's been told not?
Well, personally, I mean, it has to feel right for Carl.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say, well, of course it'd be all right, Carl. I mean, he'll take on what the mediums say.
Yeah, that's right.
What other people think, and make your own decision at the end of it. The people I say don't do or speak to a doctor beforehand is if the person has either severe clinical depression or something like schizophrenia. Also, epilepsy I put into that field as well. Although personally, I actually think hypnosis, as long as you're not doing any sort of shock inductions or ones where you're staring at a spinning spiral, which I don't do those ones. There's also been other research that shows that actually hypnosis can be very beneficial to people that have epilepsy. But I just get people to sign a waiver that they're happy to receive hypnosis, and if they have any of the following, that it's best to avoid going into hypnosis and having the past lives. But for most people, and even people that do, the doctors usually just say, it'd be absolutely fine. But it's just a way of us covering ourselves.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's one of those things. It's an argument that I've heard quite a few times. If somebody went to see a ventriloquist on stage and they had something happen to them on the way home, they wouldn't blame the ventriloquist. But if they saw a hypnotist went up on stage and the same thing happened, people might put the two and two together, those two things. So that tends to be one of the reasons why we like to sort of make sure we sign those waivers and stuff like that. But it'd be interesting to know, Carl, why the mediums think, it's a bad idea, and is it okay doing it the mediumship way? Because there's the way that I do the past lives and help guide people through hypnosis, but there's also the mediumship way. So it'd be interesting to say what they're picking up, because if somebody that would make me want to do it more, actually.
I do know Carl, actually, and it's anyway. He's basically been told to keep away from it.
Okay.
But he himself is kind of picking up links, and he's going through life. He's like picking up links, and he's picking up connections as well, which are like standing out. So I think, in a way, without doing the past life, he might actually be getting there.
Yeah, probably himself.
In some
Yeah,
ways.
I know it can be very healing, because I've had quite a few people that have drowned on a ship, and in this life they have a fear of water, although they have no memory of why they should have a fear of water. Then they go through an experience of seeing themselves drown as somebody else, and it often relieves the hypnosis, sometimes just by the process of them seeing themselves drown as somebody else, but also through hypnosis do some healing if the client asks for it, which I'll do afterwards, and people then can enjoy going in water and experience the relaxing beauty of actually floating or having a proper shower.
Oh, there you go. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Cowabunga.
Yeah, it's quite strange, because I'm a bit strange, because like I don't like fruit because it's sticky. And it's like totally illogical, but then I find that in one of my past lives, 12s, 1300s, I was actually a fruit seller. I was a
Okay.
peasant selling fruit. So that would actually explain why I don't like sticky fruit.
Absolutely, and if it's sticky fruit and it's a very hot, I don't know if it's hot where you are,
Yeah.
it's probably getting sticky on you and everything like that. So
Yeah, that's right. So there's nowhere to wash your hands back in the day at Nottingham Castle, which is where I was selling my fruit. And you can just imagine all that, and it's
you
just
can let
odd,
that
isn't
go,
it?
should you wish to, the fear of the
Yeah.
sticky
It's
fruit.
it's not too bad, I just don't eat fruit, I have it with vodka, it's fine. But, it's
Okay.
a bit weird how you get these things, isn't it? But,
You do indeed.
so Mason has a fear of water, bridges and heights. So that's
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
okay.
It could be that. When somebody says I have a fear of water, bridges, and heights, I make sure I don't plant ideas. So I don't say, "Oh, perhaps you're working on the bridge and maybe you fell in," because I like the client to come up with that themselves. But that could possibly be one of the reasons. It could be a possibility of other things also as well. If somebody comes for a fear and they think it's related to the past, I don't particularly say it's going to be a past life. I just allow a person to go to the time when it happened. And sometimes it might have been when they were a toddler and consciously they've forgotten it, but subconsciously they remember everything and they'll go back to that time in their life. And sometimes it is connected to a past life. So it'd be interesting, if you explore that through hypnosis, through whoever you wish to. It'd be interesting to see, if you can alleviate that. If it's a problem, that is, some people think, well, it doesn't really bother me that much. I'm not ever really going over bridges or near water very much.
Yeah, it'd be a bit annoying if you live right near it, wouldn't it?
It would, yes,
It depends on
yeah.
one, so depending where you live. But Claudette, we're actually not doing any readings. So yeah, I don't actually do readings. My podcasts are all about having a chat with people. Okay, thanks for joining us anyway. So when did you first get involved in sort of the paranormal or the past life regression side of things?
Oh, so well, a really long story. So it kind of all merged together. So at the beginning, I think the very first time I really the spark of the idea for hypnosis, because I've always been interested in hypnosis, but very first time I thought, well, that was interesting. And I watched a documentary when I was quite young, about 10, 11, something like that, and they had a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, also a dentist. and he would hypnotize people to feel relaxed when they're in the chair and have the
Oh,
dental work done. And I remember, because on TV, whenever you see hypnosis being done on TV, they won't show the full induction. If you see it on a podcast, then you will. But they're not allowed to show it through Ofcom, just in case people are, say, ironing and then fall asleep and the iron's burning away. Because the
yeah,
amount of times I've done the regressions and people say, "God, I'm feeling sleepy now at this point." So that was the first idea of hypnosis. I've loved the paranormal since 8, maybe even before that, when I used to buy the children's books of ghost hunting, the very famous children's books of
yes,
ghosts. And
brilliant.
I mean, they're up in the attic somewhere, and they were well loved, well used books. So I've always had that fascination. And then it was the TV programs and that she's showing people going out investigating. I thought, well, I'd love to do something like that. So I then became a paranormal investigator, and I kind of always had that interest in hypnosis, and I've loved hypnosis as well with past lives since watching that wonderful television program, Strange
Yeah,
But True. Um, and I went on, I learnt hypnosis, was doing paranormal investigation around the same sort of time because I got into hypnosis, and I've always had that slight interest. I wanted to originally be a radio DJ and a nightclub DJ, and I did have some small
wow.
success in a few of the nightclubs and pre-club bars locally, but I was always held back with the fear of rejection. So I got into doing hypnosis and something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. So
Yeah,
some people going, what on earth is neuro-linguistic programming? So you've got not just your mind, but your whole neurological system, linguistic language we use with each other, the way you talk to yourself, the way you talk to other people. And it takes on each individual as like computer programs. So we run programs in our mind. If you don't like the program, you can rewrite the software that's within you,
wow.
which you've programmed basically since you were growing up through parents, friends, your own beliefs, etc. So you get yourself from a stuck state to a desired state. So I had a fear of rejection pushing myself forward to the big nightclubs, and I'll get very nervous during
Gosh.
any interviews and things like that. So I started learning NLP and hypnotherapy. My dad became unwell and unfortunately passed away with cancer, but he was listening to some self-hypnosis CDs at the time, and it really did. He loved listening to them. He felt so optimistic when he was listening to them. So after he'd passed away, I thought, actually, this is what I want to do. And I was lucky when I did the hypnotherapy training that the hypnotherapist Raymond Roberts, he did some past lives during the training. And it was when I was on a paranormal investigation, I said to the organizer that was on this doing this paranormal investigation, so I've just learned some past life regressions. Can I just demonstrate it on a few people? Because obviously I hadn't had any clients at that stage. I wanted
Yeah.
to practice on people, and I kind of had a little audience then.
Oh,
And
wow.
my, and my good friend Lynn
Incredible.
Sindri then booked me for a few events. I also took another course in past lives because I did hypnosis and hypnotherapy with some past lives. I wanted to focus truly on past life hypnosis.
Wow.
So now she's become a good friend, Maria Wheatley, and she's a master dowser. She's a really fascinating, interesting lady, but she also taught past lives, and she was taught through
Incredible.
Dolores Cannon, who's a well-respected, well-known and well-loved hypnotherapist and has written many, many, many books. So that was kind of my journey. So ghost hunting.
It's
So if it wasn't for
fascinating.
ghost hunting and if it wasn't for learning hypnosis, the two probably would have never come together. But it's given me so much pleasure doing the hypnosis that I feel truly grateful.
It is so fascinating, and for me, the paranormal and my past life are just linking and they're working hand in hand. It's strange, like how I can encounter something 8 years ago, the same spirit in about 4 locations in Nottingham, and it turns out that he had me murdered, and I used to work for him in a past life, and now he
Yeah,
turns to investigations today. So I'll just go somewhere, not expect him, and then all of a sudden there's links there. So whether I've been led to go there for a reason, maybe it's a bit strange, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if we are led in certain directions because, for example, I'm using Wi-Fi to talk to you right now, and those Wi-Fi waves are going straight round where I'm sitting right now. I can't see them, but it's allowing this to be possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's forces steering us in certain directions.
Oh yeah. You kind of feel that with people you meet a lot as well, don't you? You know,
Yes,
you
indeed.
kind of meet people with a reason, for a reason, and then like maybe say they've got an interest, and then sort of go onto that path or something. And oh, it's just so fascinating. It
Absolutely.
really is. But if anybody's got any questions for, please add them to the chat. Oh, okay. Is it possible you're connected to a past life if you feel like you've lived in a place all your life, but it's the first time there?
Possibly. I mean, again, doing was that Andy? Sorry, that put
Andy
that.
Linden,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say it quite possibly is. The best way of probably finding out is to do a past life regression yourself. But I'm somebody who has all sorts of different theories, so it could be related to a past life. I'm a believer, but I also like to have like the skeptical ideas
Yeah,
because I think that when you
I get
have
that.
that, it stops you from getting carried away, and it also gives you another possibility. But I've also heard sometimes that feeling of deja vu is because you've actually had in the brain like a miniature blackout. So just that miniature blackout, it just then resets the brain. You think, I've been here before, and then can give you that feeling around that place. That's a
Yeah,
skeptical answer. Also, as well, I have a theory that you have haunted locations and you have spirits in the haunted locations, and a lot of people say I didn't like it there. I could feel an atmosphere, which might have been stone tape theory, or it could have been actually spirits in the place, or for some other reasons. But if that's true, I think the opposite it could be true as well, is that you actually have ghosts and spirits that like the energy of people about and invite you into a place. So there's also
right.
that idea as well.
Yeah, I do have a piece of equipment, and it sort of goes off a lot around me, and yet it wouldn't other people. So I think that's something to do with my energy. So I know energy can work in, some ways, can't it?
Absolutely, good
It,
positive
it
energy.
is strange, really, and yeah, the whole paranormal, it is very odd, isn't it?
Mm,
And the more you sort of get engrossed, and the more you go down the path, wow, it's just incredible what you can get.
exactly. Yeah, and as I sort of say, I always look at all different angles because I remember reading a quote once, which was "Only the closed mind is certain," and I think that's really a good way to live your life. To actually
Yeah,
be open to possibilities.
yeah, that's it, and that's the thing. Like, if you do sort of go on investigations, and I was on a great one. I was on the SPS one on Saturday, which was the first event at Australia, and that was brilliant. Really enjoyed that. And
Fantastic.
it's great when you get the guests and they're all willing to try things out. And you
Yes,
do sort of need to have an open mind to some degree, but you can't believe everything's paranormal either. You've got to have a healthy skepticism, haven't you?
exactly. And sometimes sound travels in mysterious ways and can alter the sound of things because I remember being in it was AJ Meeks, which is no longer going now, unfortunately. The shop is still owned by the people, but being AJ Meeks doing a paranormal investigation, and I placed dictaphones around certain areas and also had a camera going on the dictaphone. There's a point. I remember when I heard it, the hairs went up on the back of my neck because it did sound like a voice saying "I see you," and I thought, "Oh my god!" And I went
Wow.
cold. Saw the video footage of it afterwards, and it's when I can't remember if it was me because it's a long time ago or somebody else, but just go across because everybody's quite quiet to one side of the room to the other, and it's got creaking floorboards, and it creaks. But where the dictaphone was placed on one of the shelves to where the camera was, you can see that it's just the squeaking floorboards. But when it's
Oh,
picked up on the dictaphone, it just changed it, and it really did sound like I see you. So that's why I think it's good to look at all angles and also have multiple cameras set up as well.
that's it. Yeah, I find that with sort of dictaphones, like if you leave it in a locked off room, then You need a camera. I tried it at Matlock Pavilion, and I sort of tried the telephone method where you've got an open telephone at the other side and you call it, and I'd left a camera there because there was
Mm.
traffic going by occasionally. So you
Yes.
didn't want to sort of think, oh, you've had a response, but actually it's traffic.
Yeah. That's
It's
good
then
proper
sort of
investigation.
checking it afterwards, isn't it? Just to see, just to
Exactly.
rule it all out. But yeah, but it the whole paranormal, it does actually fascinate me. So this is Carl. Basically, as a person who killed a woman in 1862, and each time he visits Derby, he makes it known he's around. He has an
Hmm.
issue with me and wants revenge. I think he was an executioner at Vernon Gate, Derby, and
Oh,
he could have been his executioner. So, I think Carl is slowly, maybe sort of finding out more about his past life without actually
absolutely. I mean, when you're there,
telling us.
I mean, it depends what Carl wants to do. I'm someone probably for my hypnotherapy, hypnotic side of things, likes to have a resolution. So maybe Carl, when he's at the venue again, saying that was my past life, for whatever I did in my previous life, I'm very sorry. I'm a completely different person now, and maybe there might be better responses or something like that. So I mean, I do kind of slightly. I don't do that much in the way of paranormal investigation anymore, but occasional times when I do, I kind of still probably got my therapist hat on.
Yeah, that's right. Because has your mindset changed a lot since you did actually start studying?
Well, I certainly became more confident in myself, and
That's good.
it's not like a sudden overnight. There I am. I just went from not being confident to being confident.
Yeah,
It was a process, and there were certain things I found easier to change, other things I found harder to change. But I always think that it's a little bit like if you're going to go to the gym, you don't just go to the gym and get on the exercise bike, do 5 minutes. Right, that's it. I'm set up. I'm fit
yeah,
now. I don't need to do that again. It's constant working on yourself. So, even now there's little things I find I've got to work on that, but I just like to walk my talk. And I think sometimes just allowing yourself to be a little vulnerable as well, because, at the end of the day, if anybody says they're completely and utterly fixed, I would think that there's going to be something that they're still working on, and I'm sure the Dalai Lama and other people still have their little things that they need to sort of work on as well. Because everybody's human. We can only just
oh gosh, yeah,
progress.
yeah. It's quite easy just to have a meltdown or feel down, or just
Mm.
over nothing as well, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Just getting through the day. You watch the news, and oh dear, and oh, just there's so much there, just trying to annoy you, isn't there? Really?
Yeah, I don't know why they don't. There is a newspaper, at least there used to be, but I think it'd be so nice if there was a television program, even if it was just once a week, the good
Yeah,
news, because for
that's right.
every negative bit of news, there's always going to be something positive, and
That's
and the
right.
positive thing's always at the very end, kind of like it's not that it's almost sends out the signal it's not that important, whereas
Yeah.
happiness, seeing people help each other is what we should be doing as a society, really, rather than against each other's throats and dog eat dog and all that sort of thing. So I think, yeah, the good news. We need to have a station called the Good News. There are a few YouTube channels which are dedicated to YouTube to good news. I'm glad to say.
That's better, yeah.
Yeah.
But that is about life, because you don't get people going up to people usually going, "Well done, you are great, your hair's great, this." You get
Mm.
people now going, "Oh, in the social media. Oh my gosh." The keyboard warriors and the amount of grief on social media all the time, it's just crazy, isn't it?
It is absolutely, and I really try my hardest to avoid
Oh,
the
I keep
negative
out
side
of
of
it.
social media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is mad, isn't it? And yeah, I sort of usually know what's going on, but yeah, definitely keep out of it. And like people try and post stuff on my page, I'm not interested.
No, and
Go away. It's their perception on something. If you hear both sides, what's that story? And nah, I just
It
can't be bothered
is.
with it.
And I always think the best thing you can do is put your own mask on first. If
Oh
you're in an
yeah,
airplane, they always say put your own mask on first, and then you can help out others. So, if
yeah,
you're dragged down by the certain things that you see, you can't be the best to help out others.
yeah. That's right. It's just a crazy world, isn't it? And I just kind of find like paranormal for me, it just sort of takes up so much of your life. I was out twice this weekend, been out quite a lot, and I don't know. It is wonderful to meet with like-minded people, and it just like work together, and just build that relationship, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think that it's a little bit like, and I say it as well, because you have some people say, "Oh, NLP isn't that very dangerous?" But people kind of sort of see an angle of it, and they see a very distorted angle
Yeah,
of like hypnosis as well. People only got like their perception of it of things. But like, I always think as well, you can have a hammer, and you can use a hammer to create wonderful things by hammering the nails in and really just making the best thing where you could use that same hammer and smash stuff down. So it's again how you use the tools as well.
yeah, that's it. And it's like my original perception of mediumship. Like back in the day, I just saw the ones who were waving their arms around,
Mm.
and they weren't even good at acting, and it
Yeah,
kind of does put you off, doesn't it? And like everything, things can be used different ways, and you just got to have an open mind, haven't you?
exactly. I mean, I get on well with so many mediums, and the mediums have been ever so kind to me. And if they feel the past life would help out, they mention put a name forward, and I've made a lot of good friends through mediums as well. So there are, like anybody, there's bad people in the world, there's good people in the world.
That's right. And around me now, like when I go out investigating, when I do my private events, it's mainly mediums who go along. And,
Mm.
it's strange that something what so scared me years ago, it's like it's always around me, which is fascinating, isn't it? How things can change and you can change.
Exactly. We're always changing throughout our entire life. I mean, if I think who I was 10 years ago, I'm
Oh
not
my
anywhere
gosh.
near that
No, I'm
same
not.
person now.
Yeah.
I was still doing my NLP stuff at then, but I've progressed as a person. At least I'd like to think I have anyway.
Oh, bless you. But yeah, it is fascinating how we do evolve. And yeah, when you think back to where you were 10, 20 years ago, and would you have done things differently, do you think?
Oh
Would you have
yeah,
started
absolutely.
earlier or
Well, I think if I knew what I knew now, I certainly wouldn't have had the awkward teenage, early
oh,
20s years.
bless
I,
you.
I think yeah. I mean, I would have totally been different, and I think that although in a way you could think, well, I went through that to get to where I am now. I think though what would be good is if some personal development. I mean, I love NLP.
Yeah.
That's my go-to, and I love hypnosis. But whether it's CBT, whether it's any of the other wonderful forms, or some of the uh, psychology to give people relaxation in their lives, I think if this could be taught at schools, just a little tiny bit taught in schools,
Yeah.
I think it could half bullying, maybe even more than half bullying. It would certainly raise confidence in children. So when they go into exams or when they're leaving school to go out in society, because I used to work at the Guildhall and used to get the Guildhall was a music and arts venue
Oh wow, okay.
and in Gloucester. And it was a fantastic place. They had all sorts of interesting music to very well-known people, to very obscure films were being shown there. They had meeting rooms, all sorts of really interesting things. Um, but that you would get the work experience coming there, and just how shy and uncomfortable the
Oh,
majority of these work experience people were. And I think that if you're just given a little bit of personal development within in the schools, or goal setting as well, because so many of them didn't really know what they wanted to do once they left school. I know that you're a developing person, but it's nice to have a direction, an
mhm.
outcome that you're going in. So I think add that in schools definitely. Kind of moved a bit
Yeah.
away from the paranormal. I apologise here, but
Well,
I
no,
also love.
this is how the conversation always goes anyway.
Mm.
It just starts sort of meandering, and that's what we do. And it's just great to like speak to different people and get different people's ideas, perceptions of anything really.
Yes,
And
indeed.
sometimes paranormal is part of life, isn't it?
It is
So
absolutely, and as you said, there's division on the social media, but I think I've made a lot of good, lasting friends to the paranormal as well. So
yeah, I
I'm
have.
grateful to the paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah, like we're going to the Paramount, been to a number now, and they've been brilliant, haven't they? And just
They
having a
have,
laugh
yeah,
with these like-minded people, and it
exactly.
is brilliant, isn't it?
Yes,
Oh,
it
so
is.
yeah, Carl sort of ousted somebody. Oh dear. But yeah, I think you just got to ignore the bad ones, aren't you? Because, like we said, like so many decent people about. And if
Mm,
we can all sort of go ahead and go, wow, this person's good, rather than thinking, oh, what about them?
yeah,
It's better, and it's sort of better for your mental state as well, isn't it?
absolutely.
You've got more
Because
positivity around, and you're looking at the good things.
yeah, we have. I mean, we've heard it before: the fight, flight, or freeze, and that comes from the times when we were, cavemen, and we had to, eat the animal or be eaten. And
Yeah,
but I think now we don't have that sort of threat. But if you're kind of focusing on the negativity, your body is on high alert, and it can come out in so many different ways, and illnesses, because there is a saying, a presupposition in NLP, which means what you presuppose, the mind and body affect each other, and they really do.
yeah. I do find like if you're down, you sort of get more and more things that sort of knock you down further. But if you're
Mm,
sort of happy and you're doing all right,
yeah.
then you sort of the way you see life, it does sort of affect you, doesn't it? From being down there or up there, and things sort of go more your way, don't they?
I think having people to talk to as well, because I've
That's
forgotten
a
the
big
name
one.
of the psychologist's name, and some of these psychologists and these not so psychologists, these scientists, it's interesting to show what happens. But I'm an animal lover myself, so I think, oh, that's a terrible thing to do. But I remember they had, I remember the guy's name later, but he had a load of rats in a cage, and it was just one small cage, and he would put them in an individual cage, and all there was a bottle of water to drink or a bottle of liquid cocaine, so that the rats had a choice to go to one or the other. And when he noticed just the rats on their own in a small cage, the rats majority tended to go to the cocaine until it would eventually kill them. But then
Yeah,
he put some other rats in a much larger cage with other rats, so they could be social. There were also things for the rats to play with, and he called it Rat Park. The majority of the rats then went just to the water and left the cocaine alone. So I think that it's so important. I think even in the animal kingdom, we need to have that social interaction, even if it's like over the internet, what we're doing, we need to have that space that we can sit down and talk to others. I think is incredibly important.
yeah. It is a good thing. I do live on my own, so I do. Even though I haven't actually I've got a dog, a bird, and a tortoise. That's my company, and I work from home as well. So I don't generally chat to people that often. Unless to go out. And the internet, even though you're messaging people, so it is a conversation, isn't it? And you get used to it by
Yeah,
typing rather than speaking, which years ago would
absolutely.
have been mad, wouldn't it? But
No, I mean it's like a double-edged sword. I think that one, we're more connected than ever
yeah,
before, but also as well, it can disconnect us, because the amount of times I've been to pubs and seen a
yeah,
group of uh, late teens, early 20s around the table on their pipes, scrolling, looking at their phones on Facebook or
yeah,
TikTok, whatever, and I'm thinking we should really be talking to each other, and because that's memories. You might as well just get some cans from the off license and drink at home, if you're going to be
that's
doing that.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I get it. I go to drama on a Wednesday, and then we go to the pub after, and like there's times you look around and everyone's on the phone, and it's
yeah,
like it's like a habit, though, isn't it? It's kind of what has sort of developed and what you've got used to.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I try and remind myself now. And I've been caught up in the past as well. But to
As
put
well.
the phone away so that I'm chatting with people.
Yeah, that's right. So Mason says, I wonder if animals could have past lives.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. If humans reincarnate, I don't see why animals can't reincarnate. And as I
Yeah,
said, I've had a couple of people who have said to me in their past life that they were animals. So I'm sure that I'm sure that if it is such a thing, that it happens and animals reincarnate. So yeah, I like to think they do.
yeah, it is fascinating that the whole, and there's so many stories about the Titanic, aren't there?
There
Like,
are. I've actually had a couple of people on the Titanic. Now I know
wow,
that people say
incredible.
uh, the Titanic is such a famous case. And the thing is, though, is that if there is such a thing as reincarnation, people that were on the Titanic would reincarnate as well. It's just because it's not like everybody reincarnates unless it's somebody famous. It's going to happen as well. And I can count on one hand all the really more well known past life aggressions that I've had. But funny enough, I think I'm trying to remember. I think each of those people actually had a fear of water, and perhaps as well,
Wow.
maybe there was some form of channeling going on with that. Some sort of spiritual connection. So there's in the talks I give, I often talk about Dr. Ian Stevenson and his skeptical findings and his believing findings, and there's more than one possibility of it just being past lives or reincarnation. So I like to kind of have that framework as possibilities so that people it's again, it gives you more options to kind of think what it could be. And I'm always honest when anybody comes to me. I sort of say it could be all these different things that could be going on, but the important thing is what it means to you, because what I do is very client centered, so my belief should never be somebody else's belief.
Oh wow. Carl's basically saying that his two dogs never saw the last dogs, and at times looking at where the dog used to sleep. Yeah, it's just fascinating though, isn't it? And my
Absolutely.
dog can see things as well. He's growled at spirit 3 times.
Yes, I mean, animals are
Yeah,
incredibly, and it possibly is because um, when so many children have imaginary friends. Now, some of them are imaginary, but sometimes,
yeah,
particularly now with video, I've seen videos online of children speaking to some person who is not there, and it seems so much more than just imaginary friend to me. Personally, that's what I think. It seems a lot of the times that it is more than just imaginary friends. But then, as you get older, parents, adults might sort of say, oh, you're talking to your imaginary friend, and then the belief starts to go. But with animals, there's nobody ever to say that what you see there isn't real, because they see what they
yeah.
see and experience what they experience.
That's right. And his way is growling, and yeah, it was fascinating. That was at the schooner actually. He was growling at an armchair.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, and I picked up on a spirit there, and yeah, and they've got different hearing and different senses than us as well, haven't they?
Absolutely.
So it is kind of stronger. Um, uh, have you ever had a past life done
I
yourself?
have, yes. So I've had them done when I've been doing uh, the training. In fact, a lady's offered to do me one, which I will be doing, because I think it's good to experience. I mean,
Mm,
I'm somebody that's, I mean, for my YouTube channel, that's always going to be me conducting the past lives, because that's what the YouTube channel and my Facebook page is about. But if
yeah.
if people I know, I'm more than happy to be a volunteer. I love the experience of hypnosis. I like having past lives. I've had quite a few. The very first one that I ever did was in the Lake District, and I was a carpenter. And people
Wow.
often ask me, am I a good carpenter now? I'm really am not. So it didn't cross over from that past life. I was a somebody hunter gatherer called
Oh,
Ranuk was my name, That was quite an interesting one. I did two others that I can remember. One, I was in Roman times, and I had one in 1960s Russia where I had to give out sort of codes over the radio. So that was quite an interesting one.
Wow.
I remember that
Incredible.
one. I remember that one feeling quite sort of stressed during
Oh,
the
I
process
bet.
as well.
Oh my gosh. That the code breaker, did you'd be would yeah, you'd be speaking English, wouldn't you, all the time?
So yeah, I mean, I was for that one. I was actually speaking Russian during that one,
You were
and the
speaking
way,
Russian.
yeah, I
Wow.
wasn't actually speaking it whilst I was because I can't speak
Well, no.
Russian. And it would have been incredible if I was repeating Russian, and if somebody had recorded it, which they weren't at the time, and saw that I was actually saying words, that would have been the icing on the cake. That would have shown that really something weird and paranormal was going on.
Wow.
For me, what I was getting though, it was a little bit like I'd stuck some Russian on the radio or television, and I was trying to hear what it was so I could hear it. I could have an understanding of what I was doing there, but I couldn't really properly understand exactly what was being said. But I knew the reasons why I was there, why I was doing these codes and things like that. And
Wow.
they didn't actually take me through to the death experience. So I think that's one that I'd like to have possibly guided through again. And I did try to do it myself, but I think when you really want to get to the answer of something, it's best for somebody to guide you through that actual regression, because then you know that somebody's doing it properly and it's not yourself filling in the gaps.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
maybe that might be touched upon when this lady is going to do that for me. But I remember the feeling that I got was, if I got something wrong, it would have not. I didn't know exactly what happened, but I knew that it would be bad. It felt like that kind of pressure on it. But personally, for myself, I don't know if all regression is do it, but I take people through to the death experience because I think it's important. It's showing the whole life, and I'm not there and somebody's
Mm,
in absolute floods of tears. I'm very careful. I'm watching out for
yeah.
what's called abreactions to make sure people aren't going too far, so I can take them back to a safer space and give suggestions that the emotions will be lessened. But I personally, for me, I think that you haven't really got a life until you've experienced the full life. And I think that sometimes the death experience gives some sort of closure to that life as well. I mean, I'm always careful that somebody doesn't get too upset, but occasionally people have said, "Oh no, I want to feel the emotions and have a good cry." And I think, well, each to their own. But for me, I'd rather not feel the negative emotions.
You're really creeping me out in a way. I feel really shivery about this because I pulled out of my past life. Um,
Mm.
so um, I kind of was getting to know a story about my past life, and because the medium basically said on a podcast, "Oh, I think you were hung at the National Justice Museum," and I sort of went into this past life, and it was in Nottingham, and a lot of the investigations, and a lot of people who go with me on investigations, all of a sudden my past life comes true. Sorry about that. I can't help it, and the fact that people sort of chance and they bring through my past life, that is so
Mm.
freaky, and that was rather. But I kind of feel like maybe I do need to go to the end because where I left it, I was in the court in front of a judge. I knew what the response was going to be, so I pulled out. Because
Yeah.
in my head, I wondered if by him saying that he was going to hang me or I was guilty or whatever, are you traveling back to a time when he's there and he's reliving it again and you're in that scenario again?
Well, on the mediumship side of things, I can't really say. I always sort of think about it when it is a past life regression. You're reviewing past life memories, and also as well,
Memories,
I
yeah.
put in the suggestion that you only experience when they get to the death experience what you're comfortable experiencing that. And I put it that way because
Yeah.
some people want to push it a bit further. You know, some people like the real kind of like brave paranormal investigators, or sometimes people really want to, at an intuitive level, know that they need to experience a certain amount of it to at least help them heal from that.
Yeah.
I have done a few lives where the person has said, I don't want to go here. Now, what I do, as I mentioned earlier, is very client-centered. So I
Yeah.
will never, ever push somebody. So I would never say, you need to really do this. So I would say, are you happy to continue? But I've never had it yet, you know, but you know, there's still time for other people. Nobody's actually sort of said to me, you know, when they come to me individually, that they don't want to go to the death experience, because I think, one, it's just me and the person and the video camera recording them.
Yeah.
And they know that it's just for them. It's only for them. They haven't got a group of eyes looking at them and it available on the internet for people to watch at any point anyway. And also as well, a lot of times people come for healing for a past life. So if they don't go through it and don't have that understanding, they don't know what to heal, so they're happy
Yeah.
to go ahead. I mean, one of the interesting things, which is a little quirk of past lives, it has been mentioned in other books, and I've noticed it a couple of times personally myself, is sometimes somebody will start getting a pain in the neck, say around 40, and it could be from when they've been sort of hung, but when they were hung they were in their 40s, so it's almost like that year comes up
Oh
and it triggers
wow!
something
Never
off in
thought
the
about
client
that
as well.
one.
So that's curious and interesting little quirk that can appear sometimes.
Wow, I never thought about that idea, because obviously we say, like, if you've got a mark, then it could
Mm,
be a wound, you know, and that could be the reason you passed away. But
yeah,
I never thought about aches and pains as well. And yeah, it's all there, isn't it?
it is. Yeah,
Wow, that's a new one. I like that. Well,
good.
not not if I end up feeling bad because of
Yeah,
what happened.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
But also, have you had people actually look into the past and find the information in history?
Well, the most well-known one was Steve Mulligan from the Paradox
Oh
Club.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He ended up being somebody called Sidney Sutcliffe, who was shot down over Cambrai in France,
Hmm.
and that all matched up. I mean, I've mentioned him during my talks, and I know there'll be people here that may
Yeah,
have not
yeah, that's
been
right.
to the talk. But there were also everything matched up. There were things that he was saying as well, which you couldn't find records of. At least we couldn't. Like he was saying about the different acts that his father did. He mentioned his siblings, which I couldn't find online, and that when his dad was away, he'd often come back with little glove puppets, mouth organs, and the kids used to put on a show for the parents themselves.
Oh wow.
Um, uh, Steve said when he was in this regression as Sidney Sutcliffe that occasionally he would go on stage, and that can't be found online. So it's those sorts of things. If that information could be found out after by one of the family coming forward, if they were
Yeah,
happy to come forward, that would just be so amazing
yeah,
to
that's
have that.
right.
There's also Stella from Radical Cartoons. She went back to a past life where she was in a convent, and where she grew up there was a famine, and all that matched up. The way she looked matched up. So Steve's more on the believer. I think he thinks, yes, this is a past life.
Yeah,
Stella's more of a skeptic, but believes she picked up something called cryptonesia, which is hidden memories. So she might have thought that she heard it somewhere in a TV documentary or a book she
right.
read
Yeah,
ages ago, consciously forgot it, but under hypnosis was able to come up with this story. But that's her belief, and as I
yeah.
said
Well,
before,
that's fine. Yeah,
yeah, people should believe what they want to be. It's not my
that's
job to
right.
influence people.
You know, I like that idea as well. You know, and your mind, it does. You know, it's so complex, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And then the other one is cellular memory, so that through our bloodline and our genes we can remember past lives because it's in there somewhere like a blueprint. So that's quite interesting. The only where that falls down with somebody coming out with hypnosis is that there would come a point when obviously the genes were passed on to the family, so you wouldn't have somebody experiencing the death experience. So, but it's still an interesting concept,
Yeah.
cellular memory.
Well, they sort of say about transplants as well, don't they? How
Yes,
people sort of, brought through the memories in the past. Well, the
yes, exactly.
characteristics,
There was a person I saw on a TV documentary who became a pianist because he had an organ from
Wow.
somebody who used to play the piano. And one that I mentioned on the talk I did at Parameet and some of the other talks, there
Yeah.
was a lady who was terrified of heights, and she received the lungs of a mountain climber. And as soon as she had that, she became interested in climbing mountains and lost a fear of heights. So yeah, I've got a personal experience, not from me, but a friend of mine whose uncle suddenly became quite fussy the way he dressed, and he wouldn't be bothered about it beforehand, but because he had the
Wow.
liver of someone who was probably, I don't know who the donor was in the first place, but possibly more fussy and liked the way they dressed, his personality changed in that particular area.
Oh, interesting, because I do know somebody who's in that situation recently, so I will see sort of what happens on that front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Do let me know.
Yeah, see if there are any changes. But yeah, so where do people get hold of you then?
Thank
What's the
you.
best
So
contact details?
So you can do Facebook. You can also send me a friend request. I'm happy for people to send me a friend request on Facebook. Although it's always nice to say, that you saw me on Paranormal Path Peeps. It's because I like to know where people come from. Because sometimes I accept
Yeah.
friend requests. The next thing you know, they said, "Have you heard the good news about the People's Postcode Lottery?" And I think, "Oh, that's another
Yeah,
scam."
yeah. That's
Uh,
fun, isn't it?
yeah, Google search. I mean, I've got a business page as well, Past Life Regressions, Paul Goddard Past Life Regressions.
Right.
If you go to www.paulgoddardnlp.co.uk, I will come up. You can just put Paul Goddard Hypnosis, Paul Goddard Past Life Regressions in Google. I will come up Paul Goddard Gloucester, because that's where I live, Gloucester. I see
Yeah.
people in person or online. Both work absolutely fine. Or Paul at paulgoddardnlp.co.uk is my my email address. And if you go onto
Right.
my website
Okay.
anyway, you've got my phone
Yeah, it's all
numbers and
on there,
everything.
and
So yeah.
that's great. So you're going to be speaking at the Parameet again, which is brilliant.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So I'll
Yeah.
probably be doing another talk this time. Particularly, the room has the cellars in, so for people to go into hypnosis, because the other ones I put people in hypnosis,
Yeah.
it can be a bit difficult in the room with the cellars. Plus, as
Yeah,
well, it's
that's
nice to
right.
do something different. So it's my idea each time I do one of the parameets, the talk will be different.
Yeah.
So I've got several talks that I've been sort of writing. So I'll probably put a combination of all of them together and chop little bits out and make it for a unique talk at Parameet. But I
That's
will be
brilliant.
doing regressions at Parameet, but
Yeah.
they're fully booked up this time. But unless anybody pulls
Already?
out,
Oh
yes.
no.
So yeah, I had because it's gone down to 2 days. I did have the third day
Oh, I
to fill
see.
up,
Yeah.
but
So yeah.
but it's all worked out into one now. But it's
Oh
nice to have
no.
it. I only do 3 a day
Oh
at
right. Okay.
Parameet. And the reason for that is because I don't want it to be like a conveyor belt for people.
Yeah.
I want to have the time. So when I have a rest between clients, so I'm feeling refreshed.
Mm.
And also, as well, sometimes people do get, as I said, ab reaction. It's very rare, but sometimes they do. So I make sure that I have the full time there. I can do a proper healing with them rather than, well,
Oh,
I
bless
would like to do
you.
longer. So I really want to make sure that everybody gets the best value. Plus, as well, I want to enjoy the event myself. And if I'm
That's
just booked
right.
up all
Yeah.
day, it gets
Yeah.
very tiring. And I tend to find I don't book more when I've got people come see me than 3 in a day anyway, because I feel that I need my energy level up so that
Yeah.
I give the best to the person who's being hypnotized. But if you want to, there's 2 power meets this year, so I'm still got space for the next year.
That's September,
And the
isn't it?
next September, sorry, not next year, the
Yeah.
later months one.
September one. But yeah, it's nice. Like, you've got such a duty of care to people, and the fact that you think they might need the extra healing, and that's available, and it's better than sort of doing that and then there you go, then bye.
Yeah.
And at least you can sort of offer the extra,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, when I first started, I used to do a lot of psychic fairs, and they would give me a room somewhere. Some rooms are better than others, and it would
Yeah,
be little quick half an hours. It'd be one after another. I did 9 in one day, and that was exhausting. I could hardly
yeah,
drive to the nearest place for coffee afterwards. But I
bless you.
kind of felt I didn't have the full time and duty of care. So as I
Yeah,
got older, I got wiser. I looked more and more into the sort of hypnosis because I'm someone who hasn't just stuck with what I've learned. I'm constantly going through books. I've done extra
wow.
little bits and training to add on to it. And I just felt I really want to, at any event, give the duty of care that they would have when they come here in my home. And most of the regressions take about an hour, but I don't clock watch. If I find more detail in the
Oh,
past
bless
life
you.
is good, I'll keep going with it because I feel that it's the person's past life and they're getting the questions and answers, and I want it to be a good, valuable healing experience for the person as well, or as interesting as possible as well.
That's so beautiful though that you do that because a lot of people, oh my God, they are stuck with time, aren't they? And the fact that you're sort of kind enough to go, oh yeah, well, and where they are getting some interesting things through, then yeah, just that is good, yeah.
Thank you.
Because if you were booking like every half hour, you are rushing the end, aren't you? Or you're skipping like so many years if you do it that way. Or but yeah,
Absolutely.
oh
So
wow,
it's nice to do it. And also as well, it could literally be that all you need is just an extra 10 minutes with someone to get to the root of a stuck state to decide to say. I mean, most of the people that come up to me at Parameet are really interested in just experience of past life, but I do get some people that have something they want to have healed. But also as well, quite often, even though people just want to have it for interest's sake, there's something that will be brought up in it that will heal their life. But everybody that's come out of the hypnosis afterwards has enjoyed the process. I've never had anybody that sort of said, I don't want to ever do that again because it was just, unpleasant. Even if they've been through something which could be seen as
yeah,
traumatic, because they've been through that healing process afterwards,
yeah.
people feel much better about it.
I think like whenever I first heard of past life regressions, I was scared to death of coming through as somebody who's really evil, and that's kind of what put me off doing that. And
Yeah.
it just happened really. It's one night, Derby Jail, they were doing them, and I went, and I didn't think
Yes.
about it, but I'd sort of like really been too scared, I guess.
Well, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about hypnosis, what people are fearful of. I mean, you get in the media and people say as
Oh,
if somebody's
yeah,
being controlled by somebody, they say, oh, he hypnotized me to do it. And I think all those little things, as much as I love it, the Avengers, the old sort of Steed Avengers where somebody be
mm,
hypnotized and they'd go off like a zombie and assassinate someone or
yeah,
break into a place. I think that has sort of left a fear. As much as I enjoy watching those things and find it hugely
yeah,
amusing and entertaining, that's not the way hypnosis works. But I tend to find most people don't have a negative personality in the past. I have had some people that were unpleasant people, but I think the people who have done that are happy to, not that they're that person now, but they usually have done quite a lot of spiritual development work. So
right,
they're
yeah,
at a very high place that they're happy to go to that dark self that I think people might
yeah,
necessarily not be able to. So yeah, things won't be revealed that are just so shocking that it's hard for somebody to, and even the people that have been unpleasant people in past lives have been glad of the experience afterwards and found it very healing.
yeah. Well, it's incredible too. I've done it. It's totally mad, and it's how you remember things as well. Like you do this past life, and you can actually remember a lot of the facts, can't you? Afterwards.
You can. I do add in when I do the hypnotic past lives that you will remember this session with
Yeah.
crystal clear clarity because there can be such a thing as trance amnesia. So someone that's been in a very deep state of hypnosis can then come out of it and they won't remember. By planting that seed, they will remember.
Oh,
People
yeah.
remember it. But sometimes with hypnotic past, so with hypnotherapy, it's good to have that amnesia, because if somebody's just out and you're just talking to them, giving lots of positive programming, the idea is that the person doesn't pull it apart because it's for the subconscious mind only. So if you're
Yeah,
going constantly over
right.
what's being done, you're taking it away from that information going into your subconscious. So
Yeah, that's it.
sometimes I will add in, depending on the client, depending on the person, I will add in
Yeah,
trance amnesia so that people don't start pulling it apart. So it's amnesia in such a way, it's not like what happened, I can't remember anything, but it's like when you come out of a dream, unless you start writing down the dream instantly,
yeah,
if you
it'll
then
go
just go
away.
about your day, it will start disappearing. So that's what happens sort of in hypnosis as well.
Yeah,
Sometimes it will start to sort of fade and disappear, but if you give the suggestions to remember everything, people will.
that's brilliant. Do you find that people go all the way through, or do some people sort of try and get out of it halfway through or something? That
Well,
goes that
I've
far?
only once I've had somebody who didn't enjoy the going into hypnosis, and
Yeah,
I think they thought it could be something else. They bought themselves out of the hypnotic
yeah,
trance,
yeah,
and again, I didn't force the person to go. You will go through this. I thought it's that person's choice. I'll
yeah,
allow
that's
them
right.
to experience what they want to experience. But I've only once or twice I've had people sort of come out of it. Quite often it's something that is an emergency that will jerk the person out of
Right.
hypnosis. Like I won't mention what the person, but they were with hypnosis for past life regression, and then their phone. I told them to put their phone on silent, but it just made like a
Oh,
brum, brum noise, and they saying just thought, I've got an appointment, and they remembered and brought themselves out of the
oh,
hypnosis. So,
Jesus. Yeah,
so it's important that people, when you're in hypnosis, you can bring yourself out of hypnosis. Nobody will ever
mm,
be stuck in hypnosis.
yeah,
The only reason people may get stuck in hypnosis, and it only be for a temporary, short period of time, is because the person believes they could be, a little bit like one of the suggestibility tests that a lot of stage hypnotists do, and I do a couple of times just as a demonstration, where people clasp their hands together and you give the suggestion that their hands remain stuck together and they try and pull them apart. They're like that. They've only done it to themselves, but they have the belief that you will,
yeah,
do that to them. So that's one of the sort of stage hypnotism tests that you will
yeah.
see, because when you see a stage hypnosis show, they usually have about 30 volunteers and they whittle down to about 6 in the end, as they're seeing who's suggestible, who's picking up on the
Yeah,
on the codes. But people volunteer to be there, so they want to look stupid. They're the kind of, well, they don't say stupid, they want to look humorous and funny. So
yeah.
they're
Well,
sort of
they're up for
people
a
that,
laugh, aren't they? And I
yeah,
guess some of them will think that the I think some will think, oh, they can't hypnotize me, prove it. And then they'll
yeah,
go up and that, there they are acting like a dog and whatever and barking.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, some people, you do get people that just go up just to try and just to show that, but all they're doing is just getting themselves kicked off the stage early. So
yeah, that's
what's the
right.
point, really?
Well, yeah, it's like paranormal, isn't it? It's when the ghosts sort of and they clearly don't want to be there, and
Yes,
but
yeah,
then
exactly.
like everyone's welcome, like skeptics, whatever, and just as long as
Mm.
people just try and see what's there rather than just turn up to be
Mm.
silly. To be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, on a few paranormal investigations, I have experienced people being sort of silly. It's not particularly
Mm.
active night, so somebody will just pick up a chair and throw it to observe the effect. And
Oh,
I just find, oh, do you have to do that?
yeah. Oh no, it's just so past that.
Yes,
No, something like that. It just ruins it for everyone, doesn't it? And
it
yeah,
does absolutely.
we do have a laugh. You sort of there, and someone's stomach rumble, you'll laugh, or something will
Yeah,
happen, and
you've got to have fun
just
with it.
natural things. But there's no point in doing really stupid things. It's just a waste of everyone's time, isn't it? And it sort of destroys the energy and destroys what's happening around you, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I've some of the best things I've experienced on a paranormal investigation. It's been completely dead, and it's literally been 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning where something incredible happened. So when I have done the paranormal investigations, I like the ones that go right on until the sun's rising in the morning, and you go for
I can't
breakfast on
do
the way
those.
home. Oh, I love those ones. They're the best ones though.
Oh
I haven't
wow,
done it for such
that's
a long time.
hardcore.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't done it such a long time though.
well, I was 4 o'clock the other night,
That's
so
good going. That's yeah,
yeah.
no
To,
respect.
to say that I was out till went to bed at 4 o'clock the previous night because that haunted antique's still about 2. So yeah, I
Yes,
was so after working all the week. So yeah, I did well.
I think you did ever
Yeah,
so well. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. That's good
I did
going. Yeah.
do well. Yeah,
But at the end of
and
the day, it should be pleasurable. So if somebody doesn't want to stay till 5, 6 o'clock, that's
yeah,
fine
that's
too. I
right.
mean,
Yeah,
paranormal stuff happens in the middle of the afternoon sometimes as well.
yeah, and that's the thing about Carl as well. He wants to sort of look more into the things working in the afternoon, which they do. It's just whether is it people's mindset what's blocking it as well in an afternoon. Like people think it has to be dark, you have to have the lights off and everything.
I think one, it's quite often people working during the day, and particularly if they're investigated places like pubs.
Mm,
The Friday night when they got extended hours, so it's less
yeah.
likely that you're going to be there. There is a theory, though, that ghosts appear more at night because more people die at night because the body is a lower ebb. That's one of
Yes.
the theories. But I've heard people who've experienced stuff right in the middle of the afternoon. There used to be, I think, one of the very first sort of paranormal investigators, the ghost detectives. If you remember that, they used to have a team that used to go, and they used to have the day team. Then you used to have the night team that took over. So that they would be in a place literally 24 hours
Wow.
doing investigations. So
Yeah.
I used to had Tom Baker doing the sort of announcing bits in between. I've got those
Wow.
on DVD. I quite enjoy them still.
Yeah, that must be incredible because you wouldn't have all the kit and like everything now. You get a lot
Mm.
of distractions, don't you, with investigations now?
You do. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if people really want to use these apps, and some people
Yeah.
I know put an awful lot of time and effort into creating a really
Yeah,
good app,
that's
but
right.
I think be the paranormal investigator you want to be. If you want to sense it,
That's
do
it.
that. If you want the
Yeah.
apps, do that. If you want to be, which is more like me, Harry Price, old school with the chalk on the table, trigger objects, string over
Yeah.
doors. That's the way I that's the way I
That's
love doing
brilliant.
paranormal
Yeah.
investigations.
Yeah, I sort of like that idea. Like it's something I think I did on my first ever ghost hunt. That they did the objects where they sort of drew round coins, and they left them there. But with it being obviously a public night, you don't know if they're ever touched. But when I sort of go on the pyramid, I'll sort of leave coins sort of in my hotel room to see if something happens.
Yeah,
Well,
which is
I've
always
been out
good.
with other places as well, and I was staying in York, the Fleece, Golden Fleece, and somebody said that they put talcum powder on the floor to see if they got footsteps. And it's just things like that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I love York. I have not been into the
Oh,
Golden Fleece, so next time I do York,
stay
yes, a
there.
drinking
Stay.
the yeah. Is that car park?
Yeah. You can stay in the pub. Yeah, I've stayed there. It's
Yeah, I'll look into that.
lovely. Yeah. Black Swan as well. I did book it, but then last year the dog had an eye ulcer. This year he's got one as well, so I had to cancel that trip, which was a shame. So I was booked into that hotel, but there'll be other chances.
Yeah, of
But
course there will
yeah.
be.
But is there anywhere that you would like to go and investigate then?
You know, I love anywhere. I tell you what, I would
Mm.
if I had the choice, what absolutely
Yeah.
would love to do. And I know Richard Felix is recovering, and it was actually Don't Scare Claire. So they like to do a paranormal investigation with Richard Felix. But I used to love. I mean, they weren't broadcastable television, but I have some of the DVDs, and I enjoy his YouTube channel. Just
Yeah.
go into a county and go into explore places in different counties and hear the stories of the staff and hear Richard Felix knowledge as he describes the
Oh,
tale. For me, I love paranormal investigation, and I probably will do some more at some point, but it's so expensive now compared to when I first
oh
started
gosh. I
started doing
don't
it.
know. It was a
Yeah,
£100, my first one.
Really?
In
Wow.
2003, yeah, because they weren't done in those days, were they?
No, well, I used to be part of the Myers Paranormal Society in Cheltenham, and
Right.
a lot of the investigations was not big, well-known places, but certainly local pubs and venues
Yeah.
that had paranormal activity, and they were free. You know that you would go in and just say, and you'd have the staff that would love the paranormal say, "We'll stay up with you." So you used to
Awesome.
go along to free. They used to give you tea or coffee, which was wonderful, and
Wow.
all they would want at the end of it would be like what your findings were. So one of the team would type up a report, and if there was any audio captured, you put it onto a DVD because
Oh,
the internet
lovely.
wasn't
Yeah.
fast back then, or a CD. So you'd give the person what it was. So yeah, so it was really cheap when I first started. I mean, the most it would be like throw us £5 each. You know, that was kind of,
My
again, I
God.
didn't do the really
Yeah.
sort of big venues or anything like that, but for me now, what I really enjoy is going to a haunted venue and talking to the staff. You know, going to like a pub. I remember when I was at
Wow.
Lodge Park, near to where we live, just going in there and asking the girls that are working about the paranormal, because I looked up on the website. There was some ghostly experiences, like on ghost sites, and just talking
Yeah.
about it and hearing their stories. For me, that's really what gives me pleasure, just talking to people what they've experienced at these places.
Yeah, I do that naturally as well. There's a pub where it was strange because I've I've helped to host at Derby Jail. I live near to Derby Jail. I've met Richard loads of times. In fact, I should be speaking to him next Monday, but we're just trying to. I should have spoken to him last week, but he had a prior event, and yeah, he could have, might have been in too much of a hurry. And I told him of a story that one of my first encounters was at a place called Seymour's in Derby, and it was a ghost walk which ended up at the jail afterwards. And it was his son. And he let me tell that story on one of his ghost walks at that
Fantastic.
location. And for me to sort of say, oh, this is your son and this is what your son said, and for
Mm.
me to remember that from 2003, but then to tell the tale at the same spot to the
Yeah,
dad, and like, wow. And
that's good.
yeah, that was brilliant, and I've scared Richard as well, because when we've done table tipping, like the table's like headed towards him, and I picked up on the spirit and stuff, and he actually knew who the spirit was. So I was picking up information, and the table was kind of following him.
That's crazy.
That was quite funny, but yeah,
In
but
fact,
he's
sorry,
brilliant. Yeah,
I was just going to say with table tilting, it was Chris Romer, quite well known in the panel field. He told me about an experiment that you can do, because sometimes you do table tilting and it still is there's
yes,
no
yeah,
movement
nothing.
whatsoever. But what gets the energy going, whether it's then the spirits come through or whether it's subconscious muscular movement, but it's an interesting experiment, is that you have a load of playing cards on you. How many people do in table tilting?
Yeah,
And on one of the cards is a joker. So you hand the cards out to people at random, and people look at them, don't show anything. And the person who has the joker has to personally move the table. And you do that for several rounds. But in your pocket is an extra card. And you discard the joker. And then at a certain point, once you really see some good movements in the table, you then just hand everybody a playing card, and there isn't a joker in the playing card. And the amount of times the table then will start moving because the belief is there is quite surprising. So when we was on the investigation and it's dead and you've got a packet of playing cards,
wow,
do try that one
incredible.
out.
Yeah, that's it, because I do sort of host public events at Haunted Antiques, and sometimes they've got the table like nothing's happening, and it's down to the energy not building up as well, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
it's quite a strange scenario where all of a sudden you've got 10 people all mixed, some like it, some don't know what they're doing, first timers and experienced and everything, all
yeah,
together having to call out and do things that to them can be simply weird.
yes,
But that
exactly.
but that's also an icebreaker for people, isn't it?
It is, and it's a great way doing that of building up the energy if it's
Yeah.
fast. And I've seen other things as well. People saying 10 green bottles and and the tables sort of move in, and sometimes it gets to one and it goes quiet. So 10 green bottles start again. It starts moving, but it's a good way of building up energies and things.
Yeah. I like that, and it's different, and you do try and do different things on events, but it's hard, isn't it? Because everyone's got ideas, and then you think, well, that's a good one. Then you try it, and then everyone else tries it, so it's not a new idea anymore, and it's just
Yeah,
fascinating.
absolutely. Yeah, you've
It's
got
quite,
like the human pendulum and things like that people
yeah, that's
people
right.
do.
Yeah. Mason is saying about the local authority. Sort of, she's with Plymouth City Council, and they sort of don't let them use the buildings, and I'm finding that a lot. And you know, I sort of do a lot with Barry John, and he's just got Newstead Abbey, and it is hard to sort of get local authority buildings, and at a time when they need sort of the extra income, so many struggling, aren't they?
It is, yeah. That's a real shame that people aren't. I mean, when I used to work at the Guildhall, that was owned by the Gloucester City
Yeah.
Council. And I mean, they kind of own Blackfriars as well, along with English Heritage, and they
Right.
allow
Okay.
paranormal investigations in Blackfriars. And in fact, the Guildhall was kind of haunted to an extent. It was never one of those places where you had long periods of paranormal activity, but occasionally somebody would come up and say something to me. There's a little boy that was seen in the Gloucester Guildhall, and a few people have said that to me. But the most
Wow.
unusual experience I ever had when I was in the Gloucester Guildhall,
You're right.
I was it was the Gloucester light Christmas light switch on, and I was with somebody else that was looking after the street entertainers, because they had some street entertainers when they used the Guildhall as a base, so you'd be there to buzz
Yeah.
them in, make sure they were okay, and then let them back out, let them back in, etc.
Yeah.
We were in the cafe bar, in the kitchen area of the cafe bar, and they had an old security camera on the wall, and all of a sudden, well, we both heard the bottles rattling. It was just like a like mini tremor happened. They started rattling, and I
Wow.
looked up at the monitor screen, and this was before the film The Grudge came out. But if you've seen The Grudge, it looks similar, and I did see this first. A completely black, almost like shadow figure just walked across. And if you've seen the Grudge, the original Japanese version, is it Japanese or Chinese? I can't remember. But if you see that, you kind of see it looks just like that, just going across and went along on the screen and sort of disappeared. And it was just black. It was like it wasn't. It was just absolutely dense black.
Wow.
Um, the person I was with didn't see something and thought somebody might be trying to pinch some bottles or something like that. He was incredibly skeptical, so I think he just dismissed the whole thing after. I
Yeah.
was really trying to get the footage back, but because this was the days we had to change video cassettes,
Oh.
it wasn't on the, and I was really trying to look over the footage because I actually changed the tape. I couldn't play it back properly because it was on the blink. I don't know why I even had it because it was literally
Oh,
dying on us. It was
no.
years old, so I
Yeah.
couldn't. Whether it would have been there, I really don't know. I mean, I wish I'd just kind of swapped the tapes and kept it myself somehow, but I was a bit
Yeah.
more shy and I hadn't learned the NLP or the hypnotherapy at that stage. But that was
Yeah.
really quite a bizarre, incredible thing to experience. And what was interesting is that the radios did affect the TV a little bit, and you could get the same almost like black shadow in the top right
Yeah.
hand corner, sorry, left hand corner only, but it would only just ever appear a little bit in the corner. This was a complete
Right.
person
God.
shape, and it took its time going across the screen as well. It wasn't just like I think I saw something; it just went across quite slowly. So pretty cool.
That is well cool. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that. But yeah, Mason, you're right. Birmingham and Nottingham sort of did go into bankruptcy, but yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. But the council do have beautiful buildings,
they
and
do.
I have been to the ones around here. I have investigated Nottingham Council House, um, Woollerton Hall, and Newstead Abbey, and they're all incredible. And if yeah, the council buildings can be beautiful. And I think
Exactly.
Leicester's got Bow Manor Hall as well, and that's a popular location. You know, there's Haunted Heritage go there, and a few events companies go. And you know, it's great to see it, isn't it? That you know we're sort of helping the building. You know, we're sort of the teams are going in, they're paying a fee, and you know they get some income, don't they? Which sort of helps a little bit.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, I do believe the Gloucester Guildhall do accept people through. I know they did a séance there
wow,
fairly recently, so I think as long as it was a well-respected team that weren't going to be people who are going
yeah,
to trash the place go in, I think they might. I don't want to put words in their mouth because they might not do it now, but as
yeah,
far as
that's
I know,
right.
they do it.
Oh yeah, Aston Hall in Birmingham. I think I've heard of that one. Yeah, yeah. But there are some fascinating buildings, aren't there? Which Nottingham has a guild hall, but unfortunately it's empty and getting broken into and things.
That's a
Which
shame. It's the wrong people going
yeah.
in there.
Well, no, it's boarded up. You know, it's
Mm,
just sitting there, and it's a shame when sort of buildings are just left, isn't it?
very much so, indeed.
You know, it's happening with like stately homes and everything, and you
Yeah,
just see it time and time again. So anybody who does open up to paranormal, you know, it can help with, you know, some of the funding, can't it?
exactly. Yes, most definitely. I mean, I think what's really helped keep Woodchester Mansion running is the
Yes.
paranormal
Oh,
investigation. I'm
definitely.
lucky that's only just down the road
Oh
from
wow, I've
from
never
me.
been. Yeah, yeah. How many times have you been there then? Yeah.
Well, I did a student. No, it wasn't a student. Sorry, I did a documentary because there was a community radio station called Stroud FM. So I did an interview with some people there and went round with some mediums to see what they could pick up on. I only ever went there twice afterwards because my good friend Lynn Sindri, she booked
Yeah.
the place. So the very first time I went, I had an absolutely steaming cold, so I just spent it next to the fire,
Oh,
shivering the entire time.
gosh,
And I
no.
thought this is an expensive way of warming myself up. But the next time I went there, I was feeling much more well, and it was either spring or summer. So I've only ever been there twice, but on that one, and I've got it on my YouTube channel, the first YouTube channel I ever started, which is just it's Paul Goddard. That's the name, Paul Goddard,
Right.
of the channel, and it's Woodchester Mansion's Scream. We were all counted for in the area next to the kitchen, and suddenly we heard like this real loud scream. I lost the plot. Lady that I was with lost the plot. We were the only two just outside the kitchen area. Everybody else was inside the kitchen area. We ran in screaming. That set everybody else off. So, which was really quite funny. I mean, the sound of it, it does sound like a scream. Putting a skeptical hat on, could it be Screech for Calm? Because at the end of the day, the whole place doesn't have windows, so I'm sure sound from outside could travel in quite easily. And it's not a million miles away. It's not really close to the road, but it's not a million miles away to the road. Could have it been a fox? I don't know, but to me, it really does sound like a scream. And I can tell you that there was nobody else anywhere else in the building. We were all counted for when that happened.
Yeah.
It's funny watching that footage because you basically see the camera flying around all over the place.
Yeah. But you know that is what is incredible. You know, we do this, and you know sometimes you get stuff, and you never 100% know if it was paranormal or whatever. But you know, it's the memories, isn't it, and the laugh, and you know the
Yeah.
good times.
Exactly. You know, I was really frightened at the time, but the first thing after I stopped yelling was I burst into laughter afterwards because it was
Yeah,
just so funny at the same time.
yeah, that's right. I've had a few situations where people have just screamed. One was
Hmm.
where we're on Matlock stage, and it's actually in the Haunted magazine, one
Hmm.
Halloween. And there's a lady, like, as soon as she walked on the premises, she sort of got spirit, like, giving her a bit of grief. So we thought somehow it's one of the privates that we'd all get in an energy circle with her in the middle. Well, it was getting a bit weird stuff was happening. And all of a sudden, somebody says, "Oh, have you brought something with you, Jackie?" Because sometimes I do sort of have attachments. It happens to me a lot. And she was saying that. something fell out the side of the stage. Two people ran in and screamed, knocked the lady off the chair, and a spirit ran through one of the girls. And it's things
Wow.
like that, isn't it? And like we had to break it because we didn't know what we'd put ourselves in if we carried on, sort of thing. So we
Exactly.
went for a coffee because you thought, well, okay, we don't know how serious this can get, so have a and the poor girl who had the spirit run through, she has trouble going back to the pavilion now.
Bless
It's
her.
quite a traumatic. She's just a friend, but yeah, she's a medium, but that was a bit, yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was going to this paranormal investigation, but I couldn't. I remember there were a group of people investigating the Everyman Theatre in
Oh,
Cheltenham. That was the group that I was saying. I mean, the person that organised it had ties to the Everyman Theatre, which made it a lot easier for
yeah,
the team to go in. I wasn't feeling too well at night, so I didn't go. But there was a moment where it was like the opposite to capturing stuff on audio that wasn't there, because there was a group of people and they were down underneath the stage, and all of a sudden
yes,
it sounded like somebody or something fell on the stage, a massive bang, everybody jumps, and then you see on the camera everybody run up to the stage because they all heard this massive bang. When
yeah,
the camera was played back, nothing, you don't hear any bang, but it was really loud and made everybody jump.
yeah. It's I sometimes do wonder if cameras do capture what we see.
Mm,
I did see a dark mass, and we would once again. This was a public event, and we're out doing sort of vigil in a circle, and I was facing the stage as was somebody else. And we saw this dark mass form on the stage, and it got darker and thicker, and about 7 foot and wideish, and then it grew a face. And me and this
mm,
lady saw it. Now, if the camera was on it,
mm.
would it have captured it? And does the camera catch things that we can't see as well? And it's all
Yeah.
intriguing, isn't it?
No, I've heard it before where people have caught something on camera and thought, that's it, we're set up. This is going to make the news. Play
Yeah,
it back. Nothing.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I want to thank you for the chat. It's been fascinating. It really
Yeah,
has.
I've really enjoyed it. And I've also
Oh,
spoken
thank
about a
you.
few other things that I don't usually talk about. So it's been great. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. And the conversation. I never quite know where it's going to go, but yeah,
Best way.
it's been a good one. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and thanks to everyone who's like watched, commented, and thanks so much. Oh, bless you, Cowbunga. Oh,
Thank you.
there you go. So
Thank you,
thanks, and yeah,
Cowabunga.
I'll see you in May at the Parameet.
Yes, see you in May. I look forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be good. So thanks everyone anyway for joining us, and look after yourselves. Okay, so bye for now. Bye. Thanks
Bye.
everyone.